very carefully, you may have a more, in your Bible, you may have a more specific map. What it does, it actually forms kind of like a semicircle, like a crescent. Now here's what they believe happened, is the message, the revelation, these letters were read. Of course, the church at Ephesus read their letter, but they also read the rest of the letters that were given to all the churches, and it was read by here's the way some people look at it. They look at it and they say, okay, if we started at Ephesus, what happened is they read their letter, and then they passed the revelation around to the 7 churches, so that every church was exposed to the truth of the message that was given. Does that make sense? It does make sense when you consider the geography and the practicality of the letter and the message, John's message, and the Christ giving the message to the church. Now, anything else? Anything else?
You mentioned different heavens.
Right.
Explain that.
Okay. All right. For example, the atmosphere that we breathe. During the tribulation period, you're going to have events that occur that affect the atmosphere to breathe, the quality of the breathing air that we breathe. You know, we think about air pollution. It'll be air pollution that people probably have never seen. It would be like this. You remember when was this most recent volcano that exploded? Where was it? Where was it?
In Japan.
Yeah, there was an inch. It was where the flights, even the flights at the top. Remember?
Iceland,
yeah.
Yes, and even the flights over Iceland, when they were flying, they would fly over the North Pole, going to different countries. What did they have to do? They had to cancel the cotton picking flights because they couldn't. The atmosphere was so thick with the residue from the explosion. So that would be one example. Then you had the celestial bodies, such as stars, falling. The moon and the sun. All of these with certain effects, physical effects that affect all of those things. Anything from a shooting star to a falling meteorite to huge hailstones. One of the judgments in the Revelation is hail falling. So that's what I mean by that. Okay? Anything else? Now, Brad, to be honest and to try to open up the floorboard, some people, they don't believe those things are literal. I happen to believe they are. I think that it's going to be judgment on the face of the earth like we've never ever. You're talking about dead fish. You're talking about the birds and animals. Y'all remember what was it around New Year when they said I found all these birds dead and there were thousands of them, and what did they attribute it to? What? Fireworks? Y'all remember reading about that? They said fire explosions in the fireworks. Yeah, they said these powerful explosions from these fireworks. I don't know about that. But I'm telling you, when we're talking about the things that happen in the Revelation, fish in the sea, birds in the air, all of these things are going to be, they're all going to be touched from the food supply to anything such as the insects scarfing across a fruited plain, as it were, and stripping everything out of it, to the food supply. They're talking about over in Egypt, the problem with food. Again, that's nothing compared to what's going to happen in the tribulation period. So, anyway, all right. Anything else? Okay, I'll tell you what let's do. Let's come back over to chapter 2. And what we'll do is let's pick up and let's just read the first letter. Lee?
I just had a thought in terms of this. Christians are taken during the rapture, at least.
Right.
Some believe that. I personally think that that's going to happen prior to the tribulation.
Right.
Then during the tribulation, God's hand is not going to be present. Right? I mean, His hand as far as destruction and things of that. But I mean, in terms of over the 7 years coming to Christ, it's that much harder if you're not a Christian because of all the terrible things that are happening.
Okay. Now,
on
okay. Let's do this. Let's put this in reverse for a moment. Okay. All right. If you come back over here to where my fingers are here at the cross, okay. What is previous to the cross?
The Old Testament.
The Old Testament. Okay. Now, who is prominent as a people in the Old Testament? The Jews, the people that lived in Judah, the Hebrews, the wanderers, the nation of Israel. Israelites, they were descendants from whom? Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Jacob's 12 sons, Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah, right? 12 tribes of Israel, 10 in the northern kingdom, Assyrian taken captivity. The kingdom that was left was Judah. Who lives in Judah? The Jews. I can't think of the word right now.
Is that the southern kingdom?
Yes. Yes, the southern kingdom of Judah. Those who lived in the southern kingdom of Judah were known as Jews. So the point being, here's my point, is what's happening here, Lee, with the Jews in the Old Testament. God, the Lord, will come back, and during the tribulation period, He will be actively working again with the Jews, with the Hebrews and Israel and the Jews during the 7 years of tribulation. Because what will happen is, all right, you can do it this way. All right, when Jesus came, look at it this way. When Jesus came, what did He use to authenticate who He was to the nation? What did He do to try to prove, to authenticate His identity? What did He do? Miracles. He performed constructive miracles, right? He did wonderful, miraculous things, right? Okay, now here's what will happen in this. There will be another time. See, miracles, you see miracles, but you see them scattered throughout the Bible, right? The Bible is not just one huge miracle. It is one huge message, but it's not one huge miracle. So here's what will happen. God will again do miraculous wonders, signs and wonders in heavens and in earth. Why?
To show the Jews who He is.
To show again, to again snatch the cover off of His identity and who He is and who He was. Do y'all understand? Does that make any sense? So what will happen during that time period is the Lord, He will begin to work in miraculous signs and wonders again to bring to bear again what? The message of the gospel. He will use the 144,000 of the 12 tribes of Israel to preach the gospel of the kingdom. To preach the gospel back to the Jews again. Does this make any sense? I hope you can kind of connect the dots.
In chapter 7 of Revelation.
Okay.
I think we
Let's go ahead and flip over there.
the topic. No,
No, that's okay. We can do this. We can.
I can't remember, Pastor Mike, but you know the 12,000 from this tribe. There are 2 tribes here that are listed that weren't listed in the Old Testament. Is that right?
Right. Yes, sir.
Can you explain
And that's a
that?
great question, and I can't talk about that tonight.
Okay.
I'm not prepared.
All right. Gotcha.
That's just my my good way of saying I don't know.
That's right.
I got a question. You mentioned the miracles being
Sorry.
spread out. When Jesus was captured,
Right.
and Peter cut the ear off so he put the ear back on. Was that considered a miracle?
Yes.
Now, why didn't the guy say anything? If everybody saw him get his ear cut off and it got replaced, so why would they not think right then that he is who he is?
Okay. All right, that's a great question. We could ask that question about virtually everything Jesus did. What he did, he didn't do in secret.
Right.
He did it openly. Now, there's a lesson in that, because there's nothing secret about the gospel.
Right.
The gospel is not secret.
That's basically just like anybody who knows who Christ is and you still go out and sin. It's the same thing, but that's on more of a...
Basically, what you're doing is this, is you have the knowledge of who he is. You have the scriptures. You have all this information. You have the testimony of your mama, your daddy, your brother, your sister, your cousin. You've seen things happen. You've seen Lazarus raised. You've seen the first one, water turned into wine. You've seen people healed, the blind given sight, and the lame made to walk. And here's what you have to do. You have to turn a deaf ear, blind eye, and just say, you know what? I'm not doing this. And step over and walk away. And essentially, the only thing I can say is that had to have happened. And it had to have happened on numerous occasions. But here's the marvel of this, guys. God's grace is so extensive that even during that time, God will again come back to the nation. Now you say, can I read about that somewhere else in the Bible? If you read Romans 9 through 11, it's going to be a while before we get there on Sunday morning. But Revelation 9 is about Israel's past. Revelation 10 is about Israel's present. And Revelation 11 is about Israel's future. He's not done with it. Now, again, some people believe that Israel, I drew the little, I drew Israel, drew the circle, and they're done. They went into idolatry, they forsook the Lord turned his back on them, and now he is simply working through the church. Israel's done. But we believe that during this time, the 144,000, the 12 tribes, those who were preaching the gospel.
So chapter 7 falls into the 7-year.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, during the tribulation period. Yes, absolutely. Anyway, there's a great passage in here. Once you get down to verse number 9, after this I beheld. By the way, another little cue here in Revelation is when you see this little phrase like Revelation 7:9, after this I beheld, there's generally, you've got a scenery change.